Hey kitties, long time no see. I'm sorry, the summer, it just sort of got away from me. There's just a lot of things happening on weekends, a lot of running around trying to get work. It's just so goddamn hot, and I just honestly didn't feel like sitting around editing these videos all the time because it kind of takes a while and it takes a lot of work. But, fall is here. October is right around the corner, and I mean, come on, this is like riding a bike. It's going to be no problem. So, without any further ado, let's get back to deplorable double features. I mean, terrible triple features. Shit. We're going to jump back in with a good one. This week, we're going to look at the epic 80s flops of Freddie Jones. Who is Freddie Jones, you ask? That is a very good question. He is that guy. I'm not going to say he's got a filmography as long as your arm, but it's pretty substantial, and he's been around since the late or early 60s and everything. He's a British actor. He's always great, and he's actually the father of Toby Jones. You know who Toby Jones is. He's like a new that guy. Actually, that's not fair. If you don't know who Toby Jones is, you probably just don't watch a lot of British films because Toby Jones is incredible, which he clearly has absorbed from his father. Freddie Jones, movies, TV, stage. Freddie Jones is actually the originator of the Sir role in The Dresser, which, if you haven't seen either the stage play or the film with, I believe, Albert Finney, or the more recent Ian McKellen version, you should see any one of those and thank Freddie Jones for making the stage play as popular as it was. But we don't care about that. We care about high concept, really expensive movies that did not recoup any money and were loathed when they came out, but for the most part developed quite the cult following. So our menu is going to go in increasing order of ridiculousness and or, expensive floppiness, which inversely makes it going in order of decreasing Freddie Jones' importance to the plot. So our menu is going to include Erik the Viking, Krull, and David Lynch's Dune. I'd never seen Erik the Viking before. I remember when it came out seeing commercials for it, and so I was about 8 or 9 years old, so this movie looked amazing, but my parents didn't want to see it, and it really wasn't on cable at all, or at the very least none of the channels that we had, so I never got around to it. So, having watched it now, I completely understand why it didn't make any money. This is a very boring, plotting movie, which is crazy when you think about how it's a Viking movie starring Tim Robbins, written and directed by Terry Jones. Terry Jones of Monty Python fame. And you see a lot of the Monty Python in this movie. It feels very much like a very poor sequel to Monty Python and the Holy Grail in terms of having characters play against type, introspective Vikings, namely Erik the Viking, played by Tim Robbins, who, you don't see it too often anymore these days, so it's always fun to be reminded that as great an actor as Tim Robbins is, he plays such a good idiot. He just plays a moron to the T. Actually, I should probably do like a Bull Durham, Hudsucker Proxy, Erik the Viking thing at some point. Write that down. I'm going to need it later. So, the movie has decent enough jokes when they get around to it, and some clever versions. Actually, the very beginning of the film, in which Erik is trying and, failing miserably to rape Samantha Bond, is actually pretty good. It's very reminiscent of the scene in Holy Grail where King Arthur is trying to convince the two peasants that he's the King of England. It's really, really good in terms of, examining behavior of people in medieval times and it going horribly wrong for, the person that should be in control of the situation. But then the movie just kind of drags. Admittedly, I watched the original version of the film, the theatrical, which is something like 108 minutes. This is going to be a recurring thing through all of these movies, that there are different cuts of the movie in attempts to make them more palatable to an audience that wants nothing to do with this expensive black hole money pit of a movie you guys just made. It takes forever for the movie to get started, and then it takes forever to keep going, and then we just sort of end kind of anticlimactically. The plot is essentially Erik the Viking wants to end the age of Ragnarok by finding the Horn of Resounding, waking up the gods, and having the gods destroy the wolf Fenrir, who has eaten the sun and is making everything horrible. Now, doesn't that sound awesome? And there are like really good gags in terms of people's reality is determined by what their faith is. The Vikings see all of these Viking things, and as a result, are affected by it. Like, they see something they think is a dragon, so it's a dragon. They end up going to Valhalla, so they see Valhalla. Conversely, Harold the missionary, played by Freddie Jones, see, pulling it all back around, does not see any of these things because he's a Christian and has no faith in Norse mythology. And that's one of the like recurring really good gags. And it's told beautifully by Freddie Jones because he's just very calm and secure in his Christianity, much in the same way everybody else is calm and secure in their beliefs in the Asgardian Viking system of gods. And I mean, at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter. This also comes up again with the people in Hyper Brazil or High Brazil. It was hard to... I don't think they knew exactly consistently what they were supposed to call the town is, but that's where Terry Jones is running this island where the Horn of Resounding resides. The place is a paradise as long as nobody dies by a sword, and of course Vikings come, and so somebody dies by the sword, and the whole island sinks, and none of the people there want to admit that they're all going to die, and so they just end up sinking and dying. But Freddie Jones, really kind of charming throughout. He's in the background of just about every scene because he goes on the trip and he's around in the Viking village. And I'm not going to say he steals the show, but he definitely saves the day. Because his faith is different from other people's faith. Honestly, I've talked more about this movie than it really needs to. It's kind of funny because, like, I saw the longer version, but there is a shorter version that ran on cable, and then Terry Jones' son made an even shorter version, which I never got around to watching. It's only 75 minutes, but apparently it's a lot punchier because we cut everything out that was dull. Everybody is trying very hard, and they're all taking it very seriously in terms of, we're playing it straight to make it funny. As a result, everybody is actually doing well. Like, Mickey Rooney is in this movie, Eartha Kitt, John Cleese, because, you always need at least 2 Monty Python people in there. Charles McEwen, Terry Gilliam's writing partner for Brazil, and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is in there as the father of a berserker, and the berserkers are pretty funny throughout the whole thing. And also there's like a really great gag with when they finally do meet the gods, they're all just children, because of course they are. But yeah, you can see why this one didn't do well, but unlike the other two, I don't really know why it has as much of a cult following as it does, because it's just not that interesting. And this is not to disparage Tim Robbins, but maybe it would have had a greater cult following if the scheduling had permitted them to go with their first choice for Erik, which would have been Nick Cage, which, whew, Nick Cage is a Viking. God damn, why aren't they just making Nick Cage's Viking movie right now? Next up, we have Krull. Now, Krull was on TV a lot when I was a kid, and as a result, I loved it, because it's weird outer space aliens fighting medieval knights. There's sorcery, there's lasers, there's a cyclops, there's Liam Neeson, there's a giant spider that's gonna kill everything, there's a witch with this hourglass of craziness, there's the glaive, this 5-pointed boomerang thing that is just amazing. People have firepower, and it's like, oh my god! Unfortunately, this was one of the first times I can remember in which, as a grown-up, I watched a movie that I hadn't seen in a while that I remembered loving as a child and then watched as an adult, and man, Krull doesn't hold up well at all. I mean, the soundtrack is amazing by the late, great James Horner, and, again, everybody's going, that's the recurring theme, another recurring theme in all of these movies, is nobody's phoning it in. Everybody is really committing to this movie because, definitely with Krull and Dune, there is a very strong chance that they were in the next Star Wars, because Star Wars had just happened like 5 years previous, and this could be the next thing, and no, it really wasn't. But everybody is taking it seriously, and as a result, it's a fairly serious movie, and I give him credit. There's a lot of world building that takes place in the first 10 minutes of this movie, and it goes through it pretty quickly, explaining the bad guy, explaining our main characters, and then explaining our every character that's introduced later is pretty smooth and seamless. So why was it boring? There's a lot of lag time in between action. It's like it's sort of like they had set up the money for big set pieces, and we can only afford so many of the big set pieces, and getting to the big set pieces we're really padding out that runtime. I mean, it's like, let's get to the giant spider, let's get to the scary swamp, let's get to the fire horses, or the fire mares, I think they're called. It's horses that are basically the cowboy Ghost Rider ghost horse things, because they run so fast, their hooves catch on fire, and they can run on air, and it's amazing. And there's so many things to like about this movie, except for the actual movie taken as a whole. Freddie Jones plays Ynir, the Elder, who is our narrator and our Obi-Wan and our Basil exposition. And man, much more so than in Erik the Viking, where he's playing kind of a boob, he is just booming with this incredible voice. Like, you can see how he would be the Sir character in The Dresser when you listen to him in this, and he just adds so much gravity to every single thing that happens. It's like, we have to do this, and we have to do this now, and he is dragging every like whiny asshole in the movie into adventure, and it's wonderful. Ken Marshall plays our hero, and he, ruggedly good looking. He's got a really great beard, wonderful hair, but kind of an empty shirt. Lisette Anthony plays the princess. She's incredible looking, but dubbed over because apparently she couldn't act. But you do get really great bits with Liam Neeson is one of these bandits, along with Alan Armstrong, who's the head bandit, and Alan Armstrong is playing like this big surly badass guy, which, considering how often he just plays sniveling little rat people, it's really great. And I mean, Liam Neeson, it's just always Liam Neeson, and always wonderful. Some really good scenes with like Freddie Jones and Francesca Annis, who's going to be important for our next movie, the giant spider and everything. But then, I mean, the beast, the bad guy's kind of lame, and yeah, the movie's just, it's not so bad, it's good, is the problem. Because it was never going to be good, but you can reach that, it's so bad it's good. But it's just so bad it's boring, and I don't understand how it happened, because, like I said, there's so many things to like. But no. And so, Freddie Jones, once again, I'm sure he got paid. I doubt they were, promising him a hell of a lot of money for these things, but we still don't know who he is, because these movies did not do well. And finally, we have Dune. David Lynch's adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune, and all of its 2.5 to 4 hour glory, depending on which version you're choosing to put into your DVD player, or which version is popping up on your television screen. Though, if it's on your television screen, it is directed by Alan Smithy, because even David Lynch didn't want to have anything to do with that cut of the movie, which says something. I mean, there's so much you could say about Dune. Probably, I know I need to get around to watching that Jodorowsky's Dune documentary to see all the stuff that could have been, but we're going to focus on the movie that was, which is, God, it's unintelligible, it's miserable, it's kind of annoying to look at times because of just the super duper industrial design, unless you're Trent Reznor. I'm sure like Trent Reznor watched this movie in the 80s and all of the light bulbs went off in his head, and thus Nine Inch Nails and Glory. So, I mean, if nothing else, thank God for Dune for Nine Inch Nails. But, I mean, it's just Dune. You have to watch it at some point, because it is so astonishingly bad and ridiculous that it is amazing. I mean, I would watch it every other day, because it is a train wreck of a sci-fi film that runs forever. And the fact that, I mean, it's not even the craziest thing that they gave a high concept sci-fi movie to David Lynch because they were trying to get, other people were trying to get David Lynch to direct other stuff. I mean, he was so hot off of Elephant Man when they made this that George Lucas was approaching him to direct Return of the Jedi, which, if you look at Dune and you think of what could have been with David Lynch's Return of the Jedi, I mean, the nightmares will last forever. Huh. But this is David Lynch's sci-fi movie, and it's so bad that David Lynch doesn't even want to talk about it anymore. But among our, 200 character roster for this film is Kyle MacLachlan, because of course Kyle MacLachlan, as Paul Atreides, and his entourage of mentors, which features Dean Stockwell, another David Lynch regular, playing Dr. Huey, Patrick Stewart playing the second best character in the whole film, Gurney Alley, because the first best is Everett McGill as Stilgar, because, man, that guy is just really excited to be a Fremen. And rounding out our triumvirate of tutors is Freddie Jones as Thufir Hawat, who, depending on the cut of the movie that you see, either dies when House Atreides falls, or survives for a little while, and you see him be perpetually poisoned and having to milk a cat to get his antidote, and then fades away into the background. Apparently there might be yet another version of the movie where he pops up at the end, but, not really. Thufir is just exposition, just pure exposition. He's just there to be a mentat. He's like the good guy version of the Brad Dourif character in the same film. Not really there to do much more than give a little exposition because, we've got so many characters. We've got so many characters and so much plot, and there's not enough time in even a 4-hour version of the movie to do it justice. But fun thing is Francesca Annis, the widow of the Web from Krull, Freddie Jones' ex-wife in Krull, plays Paul's mother, which the movies were filmed they were released a year apart, and it's kind of fun to see how much they can do with the makeup to make Francesca Annis look so hideous in Krull a year before, where she looks completely stunning in Dune. But Freddie Jones, in the 80s, when he went for these big, crazy movies, just couldn't win for losing between Dune, Krull, and Erik the Viking. You should all try to do this triple feature. I will leave it up to you as to which versions of the movies you could watch, so you could have this triple feature run something like 7 hours or 12. I'll leave it up to you. So hopefully everything will be back on track, and I'll be seeing you every week from now on. Have a good one.